Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another weekly episode. I am Joe, and we got Jen here in the house.
Hey. Actually, in the office.
Today, in the office is right. We're actually all in the office here. I'll show you a little view of what we got going on in the office today. We got Bradley working on some Godzilla stuff. We got Lexi working on acquisitions. We got Luca working on dispositions. We have Brooke working on some art. And Jen is downstairs in the lobby working on some cool stuff too.
Co-working spot. So it's really exciting.
So today we're going to have some cool stuff to go over. And what we're going to be sharing with you is closing, right? You could be the greatest salesperson in the world, but if you don't close, it's all for nothing. So we're going to go over that today. Questions, processes that we do that will help us filter out time wasters and things like that. So if you have any questions, please drop those down in the comments below and we'll make sure we answer those too. But this is going to be my favorite part, right? So we work hard, we get leads, right? That's part of our business. You got to crank up your lead machine and you've talked to a seller and it sounds like you might have a deal, right? You kind of filter them out, but now it gets down to the closing, right? So we want to go over strategies that make it easier for us and not harder for us. So the more information that you're going to gather in the beginning stages of this relationship are going to be key. And this is why it's good to have a system in place, whether you use ours or whomever you use it. We've designed our scripts in-house that we've scrutinized many times to make sure that we're able to get the pertinent information that we need to make an educated offer. So what does that mean? So we find somebody who has a house and they want 300,000 and they owe 290 for it. But I don't know that they owe 290 and I'm trying to give them a cash offer of 300,000 or 100 grand less than that. Guys, it's not going to work because they owe too much in the house. You're going to be wasting your time and their time, right? So having the pertinent information is going to be giving you the ability to make a more educated offer. So if I had a situation where I have a house, they want 300,000 for it and they owe 290,000, I can't look at giving them a low cash offer. It's not going to work in that situation. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help them. So this is why we could also look at doing terms, right? Our favorite part of it, creative finance deals. And that's what we do. So having the ability to look at multiple ways to make offers is the key. So if you're closing somebody who's in a situation where they're going to be a suspect and not a prospect, it's maybe because you just didn't collect all the right information in the beginning, right? So what we've got really great at is asking the right questions. You want to be a detective. You want to be able to ask them the questions in the very beginning. Obviously, why they're selling the house. You're confirming the house, the size, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. That's all standard. But the why, right? What's their motivation behind selling the property? The financials are extremely important. What do they need for the property? How much do they owe on the property? Those two things are huge. I can't tell you how many times an investor comes to me and says, "Hey, Joe, I think I have a deal for you." And I say, "Okay, what do they want for the property?" And they'll tell me they want 300,000. Say, "Okay, what do they owe on it?" And they have no clue, right? You're gonna want to get that information. And I promise you, it's just like anything else. If you come out in the very beginning of your conversation or in the very beginning of your relationship and you're just, "Hey, by the way, what do you owe on the mortgage?" You're probably not going to get very far. It's not very smooth, right? So what we've got good at is asking a series of questions where each question gets a little bit more in depth, right? The very first one is, "Hey, just tell me about your house." The second one's like, "Why are you selling it? How soon do you want to sell it?" But by the time that we get back, and I compare it to tennis, when you're throwing the easy ball out at them, what do? They hit it right back to you. You throw another shot at them. What do? They're going to shoot it right back to you. You develop a pattern of you asking a question, them giving you an answer. So by the time that you've gotten down to the mortgage question, guys, it's just another question to answer. Right. So when the sellers reach out to us in the initial contact, there's a list of about a dozen questions. Now, guys, we don't even do it anymore. We've hired VAs. We do social media marketing on Facebook. So when we get a lead, they come in all times of day, night, who knows when. And so the neat thing about what we do is we do it all through messaging. And so they get through the script, then I get a report every day. So does Jen, how many leads did we have that day? How many made it all the way through the script and how many did not, right? Because you might have some people who just say, get quote, and then they never get on the message. Sometimes they halfway through the script and then maybe they got late and they went to bed. Who knows what happens, or they end up leaving work. So they have a mission now on the ones that they didn't get through the script to follow back up with them, right? Ones that make it through the script, now we're making heads or toes what's going on there. But in that initial offering, that's when we're going to find out all of this great information. So now that gives me a better idea, or Lexi, or anybody on our team a better idea, or you, a better idea of what you're working with. And I'll give you today's example, because that's all I can really give you is the best examples. We have a seller. They just bought a house. It's about an hour north of Denver. And this thing is it 2,500 square feet? Yeah. I think it's a 4.3. It's like 2,500 square feet. And I'm telling you, the pictures in this house is like, wow, this thing is gorgeous. They just bought it. Wife is now found out they're pregnant. They want to move to Florida. They're going to be moving to Land O'Lakes, Florida. This house, they just built it 7 months ago. They've only been living there for 7 months. They want 510 for it. They want 510 for the house. So now when we get to talking with them, it's a turnkey house. They owe 505 on it. When I said, hey guys, would you be open to terms? I mean, Lexi can tell you, we're gonna probably share the call eventually, but it was one of the easiest things. The only thing I had to do on that call was not mess it up, right? I didn't have to tell them, like, as long as I didn't say like your kids are ugly or anything like that, this was a done deal. And this is why we love to do business with folks who love to do business with us. They're in a situation where they wanted to sell. I thoroughly explained the process. I thoroughly explained that we're gonna buy the house, but the existing mortgage is gonna stay put in your names until I get it cashed out down the road. And the advantage right now is because interest rates are much higher now than they were 7 months ago. So if I'm going to use this as either a rental or anything like that, my payment's going to be much lower at your interest rate than if I were to walk into Bank of America today and refinance the same property at just a higher rate. The only one that makes out is the banks. So I make it understandable to them that the reason why I'm buying it this way is to take advantage of these low interest rates. So this has been the key. Guys, when I told them this, they said, yeah, where do we sign? Next step is send me your most recent mortgage statements. Send me your HOA bylaws because there's no rental restrictions. We put a pencil to it, PITI, with everything included, including the HOA. That includes paying for the water per year for all of they have sprinklers built and all that. Payment's about $3,600 a month. And I am telling you guys, this house is absolutely nuts. It's about an hour north of Denver, and the new development to where when you look on Google Maps, this block's not even put in yet. Like the ones across the street are, this one's not. And then you see the pictures and it's just wow. So here's how we're able to find that deal. So what do we need to do that deal? So I tell the seller, you want 505 and you owe 510, but basically you'd sell it for what you owe. I'll cover all the closing costs and fees. And they said, fine. Are you able to give us a tiny bit of a down payment just so you can help with the move? I said, if you guys need a couple grand for like, U-Haul, I could certainly help you with that. And they said, that sounds fantastic. And they just messaged Lexi today and like, hey, when are you going to sign over the agreement? We're ready to go. So that's just a great example. The second one that we did, I got on a closing call today with a seller who's got a condo in, I'll tell you where it is. So just look in the Google Maps. It's in Florida. Really nice area. It's right close to the water. He and his wife are moving to Kissimmee, Florida, and it's about a 2-hour drive. So it's the point where they want to sell their condo. This was a rental. Their friend's been living there. They owe about 80 and they want, I don't know. They want 120, I do know that. And they owe, I think it's like 77,000. He wants his equity to be able to move on to the next property. So what I explained to him is that I would be open to buying it at close to full price, which is he's asking 120, which he even says they're selling in the same area for 165, which I tend to believe in because I looked it up. So long story short, with that deal, he wanted, $30, $40, $50,000 down. I said, can't do that. I gave him some examples. So I'm telling you how I closed this situation. I said, honestly, we became really good friends on talking on the phone, built up a good rapport. Everything sounds great. And then on a dime, I say, you know what? I just don't know if this is going to honestly work for me. We love the house. We love the area. Part of when I close, guys, I'm constantly complimenting. I am constantly complimenting. And we don't meet in person a lot of times. So I have to be not saying over on the phone, but I love the house and we really love that area. So I'd love to work out a deal. I just don't know if it's going to end up working. And the reason why is because the last few properties that I bought this way, as I typically buy them with no money down or very little down. You mentioned to me that you're going to need $40,000 down to go to your next property. I said, well, if we were to make a deal with the seller financing, what's the absolute least you would need? He said, I would do 30, probably 20. And I said, okay, well, I'll be honest with you, the last few that we did, let me give you an example of one we just recently did. And I said, the seller only had a couple $1,000s of equity. And that's how we did the deal. And I covered all the closing costs and I was closing whenever he was ready. And he says, you know what? I don't want to lose this deal with you guys. So we'll figure out what the down payment is because I wanted this to go through. And I said to him, well, if we could be closer to that $5,000 range, I can make that deal happen. So I kind of planted the seed in his head. He said, fine, let me send you over some pictures of the condo. He's going there tonight. So tomorrow I'm going to have pictures of this condo. And he knows now we walked him down from $50,000 to $5,000. But the reason why is I ask him, I love this house. We love the area, all positive things. I just don't know if this is going to work for me because of this. And then what's the least you'll take? And then I gave him a couple of examples of recent ones that we've done so he could understand this is how we typically do it. Not just saying I typically buy with no money down. Well, the last few I bought, this is how I did it. And this is why it worked out so well. So I actually painted a picture in their head. I took it a step further. So now he understands the benefits of what we can offer by closing whenever he's ready. We could work with his buddy who's staying there if he needs to stay a little bit longer. We got a lot more flexibility than a typical home buyer. And so this is where we're really that shining armor. I said, hey, when your buddy moves out and he leaves an old couch behind or something like that, I don't need you going to the property, dragging this out the second floor of this condo. I got guys that'll do all that for you. So we buy it, we'll buy it as is. So, take what he needs to, but if he leaves anything behind, I won't be bugging you with that. And he's thanking me. Once again, we love to do business with people who want to do business with us because the majority of the people we talk to don't do business with us. There's even a small fraction of people that we talk to who are turds, right? That you just got to whack at lightning speed, right? Get rid of the time wasters and get rid of the negative people because I won't deal with them. I only want to work with people who really want to work with us back. So closing, you got to close the right people with the right situation, with the right type offer. The lady who owes 505 on her house and wants 510 for it. I can't tell her I'm going to give her 420 or 450 or 400. It won't work. She owes way too much, right? However, I'm a little baffled because some of these are selling for like close to 700,000 in the same area. So maybe she doesn't want to just list it. I don't know what their exact motivation is, but I know for sure that a lot of people will trade dollars for speed and convenience. I'm sure that's probably not the very first time you've heard that, but that is absolutely true. There's a lot of folks who will trade dollars for speed and convenience. And we don't put enough value on that, right? To hit the easy button for some of these folks is really what they need. And there's plenty of things in our lives that we all do that we hit the easy button on that costs us money, but it's worth the convenience to do it. I know that I don't cut my lawn, right? I know that we have a cleaner who cleans the house, right? We have these things. Now I could surely cut the lawn, but it's going to take me an hour to do it. And that hour, I'd rather make 4 or 5 seller calls. To lock up a deal, they could pay me a lot more than it does do the lawn, right? So speed and convenience is great for these folks. So in these situations, we want to make sure we're rating the right offer. Now, next up to bat is when we're looking at a cash offer, right? If we're talking with a seller who says, hey, I need all of my cash and I need it now, and they're not open to terms because they gave you the reason why they need the money. I need to sell this house. It's a $400,000 house. It needs work. So we're going to put in a cash offer, but they tell you why they can't take terms is because they need the cash in order to buy their next property. Right now, we could talk about doing a home equity loan or things like that, but that's not always going to work. So if that doesn't work and we're looking at a cash offer, we want to make sure that we're understanding why it is that cash offer and why they're not accepting our terms. However, I will promise you that we have this going on right now, that we have a seller who I looked through the CRM today, and he said to us a number of times, I won't sell it on seller financing. I won't sell it on seller financing. He's totally opposed to doing it months and months and months. And he hasn't been followed up with since I think it was beginning of January. So I pop right in there, said, hey, Brandon, just want to check to see if your house is sold already, or if it's still available. And he says, yes, it is. Then we said, we chatted before, and you said you weren't open to terms. If we were to put an offer for, close to full price, would you be open to terms? Now he's open to talking about it. So time and circumstances will also change people's minds. So maybe if you're closing somebody, sometimes you could be closing them too early into the game. And what does that mean? If I just listed my house, I might not be willing to take that offer, but what's the different motivation level you think if that house has been listed for 160 days and it's still no offer? Or even worse, it's been listed for 160 days and there's no showing. Because in some parts of the country, guys, that's what's going on. Okay, in other places, it's still moving. I know from where we're originally from in upstate New York, there's a shortage of inventory. So houses are still selling pretty quickly. But then down here in Florida, boy, there are houses just all over the place. You can't get enough of them. It's absolutely crazy down here right now. So, and they just keep on sitting on the market longer and longer. So for us, the benefit here is time and circumstances. We're going to use it. I'm not going to be backing into a bad deal. This is why we are developing and now going to be putting on a platform so we can share with you guys, but we created a calculator that once you put in some facts, it's going to tell you with this seller finance deal, if this deal makes sense or not. Because how many times, one of the biggest issues that I've always seen is, Joe, I have somebody who says yes to terms. Is it a deal? Well, it is, but is it a good deal or bad deal? And that's what you're going to help you to analyze. So everything that we do, and really what it is, guys, it's not a super crazy thing, but what we do is we have completely put in our total cost of entry. What is it going to cost you to buy this deal? And it's not just a down payment, guys. And it's not just closing costs. There's a lot more things behind it. And then we're going to look at market rents and then what you're total in for. And it's going to do some calculations for you. And it's going to give you a grade on how great this deal is. And I will tell you, when we have one that's red hot, that's one that I want to get on that closing call and lock that thing up immediately. And if I've got one that's mediocre, I could toggle a few things to find out what do I need to adjust to make this deal work. Right. So it's important to make the deals. It's important that, yes, when you have a seller, say yes, but you also need to know how to analyze it to make sure it's a great deal. And that's important. So when we are submitting a cash offer, and this is one strategy that I love to use. So I'm going to walk you through one that we just did in St. Pete. Okay. So the seller originally reaches out to us. He's moving to South Carolina. He's got a property in St. Pete. It's been in the family for like 50 years, but he's ready to move on. He's got 2 big dogs. And he wants to move out to this 10-acre house that he found in South Carolina so he could be closer to his daughter and grandkids, and the dogs could run around. So this was all for him. He did not want to have his house listed on the MLS because if you've seen the condition of the inside, you would probably understand why. It's very, very dated. It was just, my wife, if she went there, she would sit in the truck. And most of y'all would have too. Some of you brave people, you would have came in with me, but you would have been brave. Me, I've been doing this my whole life. So I just walk right in and shake his hand because that's how I do. So I go to the property. I mean, the toilet is black, bathtub is black. It's just nasty, right? But the speed and convenience of not having to clean it out and list it was big for him. He says, Joe, I want $240,000 for my property. Now, where I'm looking at the after repair value, I think it's probably closer to 375, 360 to 375 range. I know it's going to need, it's about a 1,200 square foot ranch. I know it's going to need probably $60,000-$70,000 worth of renovations. So I need to buy this property for under 200,000. My number was 170 is where I wanted to be on that deal, because I knew the market was also turning back, and I don't know how long it's going to take to do full renovations. And every single month that sits getting torn apart is every single month. Some areas, a lot of places, the values are dropping right now, right? And I don't want to be caught in a catch-22. So I explained it. The seller was, I understand his price, you know, and I have a couple options for him. I said, you know, and I don't know if this is going to work well for you. I know you're around the 230 to 240 range, but what I figured is if I buy it from you and we make a deal today, I'm a few weeks out from closing. And after I do renovations to the house, it's going to probably take me 3 to 4 months of renovations as long as nothing gets delayed. So I'm looking at another 3 to 4 months, roughly 100 days or so. So it's 30 days to close roughly from here on out. I got another 100 days to close. Then I have to have it staged, photos taken. Then I have to put it on the market to sell. And the average right now are getting close to 45 days, 60 days of houses on the market sitting there. So it's a few more months before I even could find the right buyer after I have showings. Then after they say yes, I'm still a couple weeks out to another month from closing after that. So if we make a deal today, and then I go put 3 or 4 months worth of work into the house, I'm probably not looking to get cashed out by the end of next summer. I told them this in the fall. So if I were to do all of that work and do all of this and put all that money into this house to do it right, my cash offer is around 170. I actually said in this situation, I said I'm in that 170 to 180 range. And he says, yeah, I think that's too low. I don't think that's going to work for me. I said, yeah. And I figured, so, you know, I did talk to my friend who's a realtor, and I have a way to get you more money if you're interested. And he said, yeah, tell me more. I said, well, she said, if you get the $70,000, $80,000 and you are the one that hires out all the contractors, and you get the house brand new kitchen and the flooring and the roof and the bathrooms, and they do all of the stuff to your house, you're going to have this much invested into your house. And if you were to sell it with her and pay your commissions and closing costs and all this, I broke it down. So you would make that much more in the deal. But you'd have to do it now, and you're going to have to probably spend that 3 to 4 months, you know, directing traffic between you and work of getting these contractors in and out and get all this stuff done, unless you hire a GC, right? Somebody who can do it all for you. But after you do that, then you list it with her, and you show the house, and it goes. And I explained the process, guys. That's all I did. I just painted the picture of what it's actually like to sell your freaking house. You want to know how I know that? What did we do this past July, hon?
It was absolutely insanity.
We came down to Florida, guys, for vacation. Loved it so much. We drove back to New York, not expecting to sell our house that we've been in for 15 years. Got it market ready and sold it, and then moved back here in 45 days. You know, we don't live like wild. Some of these people's houses really need to have a lot of work done. Okay. So our house was nice, and it was still stressful to get it done that quickly. Right. So once I explained to him the work has to get done, then you're going to have to probably either stage it or put photos in there and then show it. And then you're that much longer to closing, which is going to put you out 6 months. He said, yeah, I don't want to do that. He said, so let me ask you a question. You said 170. I said, yeah, right in that range. It's like, fine, you got yourself a deal. He goes, what did I do? I didn't come up with some magic close. I just explained to him the process of whoever buys this property. It's that much to closing. I've done a lot, too many of these to not tell them, right? To share this valuable information that I have. To spend the 3 or 4 months, hopefully a contractor doesn't rip you off. You want to know how I know that? Because it's happened to us. Guy runs off with roof money, never to be seen again. Right. So even dealing with contractors isn't fun. And then there's always the miscellaneous stuff. And if you never, ever will not run into miscellaneous stuff unless you're like changing gutters or something not too crazy. And usually you'll still find something that too. So, you got to account for miscellaneous stuff. And this is where we explain to them just what the process would look like if we bought it, and just what the process would look like if they did all of that work themselves. So I paint the picture first of us doing it, and then what it'd be like if they want more money. Yeah, that offer doesn't work for me. Yeah, I figured it might not. So I have a way to get you more money for your property if you're interested. And of course, they're going to say yes. And then I just back into that same scenario. If you were to hire out the contractors and you were to spend the $80,000, and you were to spend the next 3 to 4 months doing this, and then you were to list your house on the market, and then you were able to show the property or leave while the realtor is showing the property, because when I sold my house, there were showings all the time, and we had to get the dog and the kids and leaves just so people could see the house. That gets super annoying. And then finally, when you find the right buyer, it's another 30 days to closing. And by the time you get this money that you're looking for, sir, I know you're looking for it now, but it's not going to be till July. And you're only going to get that much more. So I mean, you'll get more, but it's not a ton more. And is your time worth that? So it's how I could give them an offer on a house, justify my offer. And then really what I'm doing is, guys, I'm not selling them on how much money I'm giving them. I'm selling them on the gap between what they would make if they did all that work and the gap they would get if I do all that work. I'm only selling them the small difference now. The small difference could only be 40 grand, 50 grand, right? $60,000. I'm not trying to say, now I'm going to give you 170. You were only $40,000 apart from me doing it versus you doing all yourself. Is it really worth doing all that for $50,000 extra? Right. And that's the key there. I shrunk the difference down to a much smaller increment. Does that all make sense? Questions? So these are how we close our cash deals. I just paint the picture like an artist. And I explain it in the process because I've done this a lot. And a lot of times, guys, these folks are going to come to you as the professional, right? You've done this. You know more about it than they do. And this is where we come from, a area of expertise and knowledge. We explain the processes and what it looks like. Because a lot of times, if you've never sold your house in the market, you don't understand what it's like. So that's the trick. And you have fun with it too. And that's part of building the relationship. Like, guys, don't forget, this is supposed to be fun. And as much as we get tense, the one conversation I just had with my team yesterday is when you're talking on the phone with the seller, we tend to get nervous. We tend to tense up. So the one thing that I always did in sales from number one is, it's going to sound super weird, so I hope it's okay with you. I work on lowering or just relaxing my lower half, my calves, my thighs. Usually my legs are bouncing as I'm on the phone, right? But I really work on like stretching my legs out, my calf muscles, and relaxing my body. So when I talk to a seller, I'm not rapid fire too quickly for them, where they think, Joe, slow down. And then I also make sure that we're having a good time, and that's super important. So that's how we work on creative deals. This is how we work on cash. The one thing I will share last bit, and I'm going to get onto buyers next, is when I work in a creative deal. I was just doing this yesterday with a seller. The guy was a handful on the phone. First words out of his mouth is, "You're not a bullshitter, are you?" I'm like, oh, here we go. But I got to have fun with them. And I always tell them, not unless you ask me to be, right? Just have a little fun with the guy. But the one thing that we did was, I asked him what he wants for his house. He says, I need to be around 400,000. And I said, okay, well, if we were to do financing, he says, and I don't want to do seller financing for 30 years. He's like, I really wouldn't want to even 10 years. I'd probably do 5 years. And I said, okay. So if I were to do your house, seller financing for 5-year term for $400,000, you're saying we have a deal? He said, yeah, what's the monthly payment? And I said, well, normally how I do this, he's like, I'll tell you. He's like, I want $80,000 a year for 5 years for the 400,000. I said, no way. That's not how this is going to work. $80,000 a year, plus I got to pay tax and all that. That's not how this is going to work. I typically will get that $400,000 balance. I'll amortize it over 30 years, and then I'll put a final payment at 5 years. So what that shows me is that I'm going to pay you a little over $1,100 a month, plus I pay the taxes and insurance. I'll pay $1,100 a month. And then in 5 years, I'm going to owe you another $333,333 and the change. He says, no, I can't do that, because we're buying a new house. And if you're not going to give me any money, I need $3,000 a month. I didn't even tell him no money down. He already answered that for me. So bravo, right? Sure, I'm going to buy your house with no money down. So now we're just going back and forth in the payment. So I said, hey, listen, I don't know if it's going to work. You got a beautiful log cabin in Georgia on, I think, 5 or 10 acres, built in 2016. So I said, but if I were to buy it for 400,000, obviously, like you said, no money down, like you said, no money down. And I pay all the taxes and fees. And I have to get you paid off in 5 years. And you're saying, but $3,000 a month would do it, right? And then we'd have a deal. And he says, yeah, you would have a deal. All I did was I asked him the questions and I repeated back his answers to him. Now think of it, and I'm not trying to sound weird, but like a police officer, what you say can and will be held against you, right? So what did I do? He told me he wanted 400,000. He said he'd do a 5-year term. He told me no money down. And he also said that he would take $3,000 a month. So if I do these things, we have a deal. And he said, yeah. And he's the one that told me 0%. He made that offer at 0%. He's like, you pay no interest. Give me 80,000 a year. I was like, no, I'll pay you $1,100 a month, no interest. He's like, no, I need 3,000 a month. So we got to run the numbers now, see if that works. I know his taxes are like absolute peanuts. It's Georgia and I'm from New York. So when I see people who pay like, 38 cents a year for taxes, I joke it. It's more than that, but it's not very much. So I got back in the number, see if that works. And if it does, that could be a heck of a deal. Place is built in 16, it's a log cabin. I hope you like wood because the inside is just straight all wood. Like it's a lot. It's a big place too. So either way, these are some current deals that we're working on. I repeat back their offer because I asked them the questions. And then I say, is that correct? We would do that. We would have a deal. Is that right, Jerry? Is that right, Tom? Nancy, whatever. And they say, yes. Okay, good. Let me review this and I'm going to get right back to you. I don't have to say you have a deal right then and there. I want to review it to make sure all the information I've collected works. All right. What are you laughing at over there? I see you laughing at something. You see
Tell your
Bradley
son to
here?
read his book.
Jen said, read your book. Mom said, read your book. Can you help him? Okay.
Real life.
Yeah, we got the kids in the office today. So
Well, we were
now,
down to one vehicle.
yeah, I went to a real estate convention last week and my truck literally got broken into. I get a call from the hotel lobby and they're like, I'm wondering why they're getting a call at 6 o'clock in the morning. And they said, the sheriffs are down here wanting to talk to you. I'm like, for what? Like I said, 6 cars got broken into and I was one of the lucky contestants. And they did not steal my spare change. They took my phone cord charge, just the charger cord. And that was literally, I don't leave anything in my truck. So no big deal. I got the glass company coming to replace it tomorrow. So you got glass coverage for it, right? No big deal. But I did get to drive an hour home with my no window in the car and that was fun on the truck. But yeah, so we're down to one vehicle. So that's why Jen's in the office today. So I'm going to go over when we're looking for buyers. This is equally important. I could go over one that we got going on right now. Got a house in Niagara Falls that we bought on terms, guys. You'll see it on one of these last YouTubes. We bought it with $1,000 down. Seller bought the house, closed on in June, never moved in. He didn't move in because he started renovating it. He just took down the wood paneling in 2 of the bedrooms and was going to replace it with drywall, took off the ceilings, just 2 bedrooms, all he did. House other than that was turnkey. Realized he didn't have the money to continue to pay his rent plus the mortgage and then go buy the drywall and the paint and to go do all that work or hire it out. He's running out of money. He's like, I don't even want to live in a house. He's like, I've never moved into it. I just want to sell it. So he reached out to his realtor friend who helped him buy the house. And she says, well, geez, the market slowed down. Once you take out my commission, she's like, I'll even cut you a break. But because you ripped out these walls, you can't replace it. She's like, it's going to sell for less than you bought it for. And you owe everything on it still. So she's like, this is never going to work. So he reached out to us in our marketing. We find out he bought it for $230. He owes $222. He's like, if I could just get rid of this house, I'm glad. Get this payment out of my name or just get it off his hands. So what we did is we bought the house for $1,000 over that. We gave him $1,000 down. We cover closing costs. I paid our guys, $2,500 to go there, put up new drywall, new ceilings, paint it, trim it out. Now the rooms look nice. Our tenant buyer has $23,000 to put down. The monthly spread's about $200 a month, not very much. But I explain why is when we look at our total cost of acquisition, because yeah, we gave that seller $1,000 down. Anybody, have a little fun. Take a stab in right in the comments what you think our total cost of acquisition is. We got closing costs, you got, a couple payments, you're gonna have insurance, utilities. So it's $1,000 down deal, and I'll reveal the number in a second. But in the comment box, I want to see what your numbers are. I'm gonna give you guys a chance. So we end up taking $23,000 down. They're signing at the attorney's office Thursday. We're collecting $1,800 a month for rent, but we're also getting a property that is turnkey, absolutely beautiful. We don't pay the maintenance, repairs, or utilities. So that $200 we get is our cash flow. This is why it works for us, where it wouldn't work for a normal landlord, because you're gonna have CapEx, and then you're gonna also have management fees. When your tenant buyer has a leaky faucet, they call a plumber. They do not call us. If they have a fridge that goes bad, they call Home Depot or Lowe's. They do not call us, right? So our total cost of acquisition into the deal, I'm gonna reveal it, was $17,000, ladies and gentlemen. 17 grand, right? Because we have other people to pay for. We got marketing. Yours might not be as high. When you make 3 payments of $1,600 a month, you put it on an insurance policy. Niagara Falls, New York right now is really cold, so the heat's cranking while the house is sitting there empty. All these things that when you see these deals, no money down, there's other money behind it, guys. This is why we do rent to own versus just being a landlord. I can make a skinnier deal work on that monthly cash flow because I'm not responsible for the maintenance repairs. I don't have any credit tied into the deal. When I get my 23 grand back, I've got 17 grand into it. I'm up $6,000. I own a piece of real estate with no credit, nothing attached to it. We're up $6,000. I'm going to make $200 a month. But the other thing is, a lot of people don't talk about enough, is the depreciation that Jen and I get to write off on the property. And if you don't know how to figure that out with your, very simple, but you just get your calculator, the purchase price times 80%, divided by 27.5, 27 and a half years. So we get to write off about $6,500 on our taxes every year for owning this property. So when you see all these billionaires and millionaires who don't pay taxes, everybody flips out about Donald Trump not paying his taxes. But if you look at how Donald Trump became wealthy, it's from real estate. He owns a lot of real estate. So there's a lot of things that he could write off and things like that. So any income he does make, you can make that all disappear with having write-offs. And a difference, obviously, he's got other stuff going on, I'm sure. But that's just one example of how people who own real estate could pay very little to no taxes because you could have depreciation of your properties plus write-offs and things like that. So when we find our tenant buyer, we ask a couple of questions. What's the most you're gonna be able to pay for rent? Or what's the most you have for your non-refundable option deposit? Right? We don't set a goal. We don't tell them you need 10%. We ask them, what's the most you could put down? Because if I tell them a number, that's the most they're gonna get. And guys, there's plenty of times where we get more than you would expect. So we love the fact of doing this rent to own model because any money that we have out, 17,000, we get that back within a few months. So we can still recycle the same money over and over again to make multiple deals. And so now as we start to partner up with money lenders and friends of ours who want to lend money with us, this is a strategy that we could do to borrow that money and pay them some money for borrowing for 3 or 4 months and paying them right back. So it's a win-win strategy for us to be able to scale even more and to get into more of these deals, right? So we absolutely love this ability to have a great exit strategy like rent to own. Now, everybody says, but Joe, they're gonna buy the property from you. Guys, we've got properties from 2008 that we bought, that we've had now our 3rd buyers in, and house still hasn't been bought yet. You'll have a couple that do, but unless you really push them through that, they generally don't. They generally don't. You could also be picky and choosy who you're putting in the house. If you have 2 candidates, which you're going to get a lot, if you get 2 candidates and one tells you that they're going to get you cashed out in 6 months and the other one says 2 years, who are you going to pick? You're going to definitely pick the person. For me, personally, I'm going to find the person who's going to get picked in or going to get done in 2 years. So this is where I'm looking at for us and what we're doing. The strategy is up to you. I've known some investors where their strategy is to get them cashed out in a year or 2 years. And there's no wrong or right way around it. So the next thing we want to do is make sure they qualify. We show them the property. We do not go to the properties. We do it all on a virtual tour. There's a lockbox on the door. When we're going to be closing these people, this is part of the closing process. To know if I'm closing the right candidate is we are listening to the walkthrough. This is why they're in a virtual call. We give them the lockbox while they're there, but we listen to the oohs, the ahs, and if they like the property, and you hear the guy say, "This is going to be perfect. I could see my car parked here, and you're in the chairs here." Like when you hear these things, I say, "Hey guys, I know you love it. So let me ask you a question. I know you mentioned you could put this much down. Is that really the most you could put down? I got some more showings coming up. And if you guys like it, I'd like to see if we can work this out for you." But we move people tens of thousands of dollars extremely quickly when we're closing the right candidate. Okay. If somebody's doing a walkthrough, guys, and you could hear the wife in the background, "Oh, hell no." Right. And you hear that going on. I'm not going to ask them what's the most you could put down. Right. They're going to already tell you just from their feedback. So it's extremely important to always listen when you're working with buyers or sellers to what they're trying to accomplish. Now, when I'm working on a deal and we're working with other investors and we're going to wholesale them the deal, that's a whole different animal. We really need to verify who they are. And I could give you countless of stories. We should have a whole episode on just war stories. Maybe we can invite some of you in there, share some of yours. But we've had many of times where what we perceived to be an end buyer is really not an end buyer. So what does that mean? Somebody who told us, "Joe, Jen, I'm taking this deal down, I'm the buyer." They're not. They're telling you the buyer. They're going to give you some BS story of how they're going to have to do something else with it. And then they're going to try to find a buyer that they're going to charge more. It's called daisy chaining. There's nothing wrong with that, but transparency is everything. If I know you're going to do that, then I can work around you. And we've worked with other investors who did that and made the deal and everybody got paid. But when you keep an investor in the dark and we don't know, now it's made us very skittish in who we're going to do business with. So we have a way to shake you all out and find out who the real deal is and not. And a lot of it is, obviously if somebody's seen the property and they like the property, a couple characters you're going to find out is, what's the most you're going to leave me for a deposit? If you don't ask that question, you're missing out. Write that one down. And it's nothing crazy, guys, but it's not, are you going to leave me a deposit? What's the most you're going to give me for a deposit? When I talked to the guy who's giving me 23 grand to move in plus first month's rent, he's giving me 25 grand. He said, "I could wire you the money right now." Does that sound like music to my ears? Absolutely. When he says, in the different circumstances, "I gotta get it from my grandmother's aunt, uncle, this, that, or my partner in this," and you start hearing the stories. I don't want to hear stories. I want to hear, "I could wire you the money right now." And I assure you, the stories are just that. They're stories. So everybody's got one. Don't want to hear them. So we're going to ask for proof of funds. Here's the last thing you're going to know about proof of funds. You're going to want to make sure the proof of funds are in their name, not in grandma's name, or if it's an LLC, that they could show proof of ownership of that LLC. Right? Because you want to know how many times I see fake proof of funds all the time, constantly. They took a snapshot of their mom's 401k and they say, "Oh yeah, she's going to lend me the money here." But if you know how 401ks work, a lot of them don't let you do that. So that's BS. They might have, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a Pace Morby proof of funds letter. That might work for somebody else. It's not working for me. I know Pace isn't writing the check on that deal. And if he is, get him on the phone with me. I'd like to talk to him about it. And if he calls me and personally says, "Joe, I'm the one stroking the check for that deal," then let's rock. But unless I get to talk to the actual person writing that check, I'm not interested. So what we find out is the EMD, is that coming from their bank account or their partner's bank account? And if it's coming from a partner's bank account, I need to talk to the partner to make sure that they understand they're leaving money on this deal and they're moving forward with this deal. And then the rest of the proof of funds, is that under your name or your partner's name? I need to have the accounts and I need to talk to that person to make sure that you're not just saying, oh yeah, I'm using my mom's 100 grand to buy this deal, but you're out on the streets trying to peddle this deal to somebody else. And mom has no idea why you made a copy of her 401k, but all she says that you knew you needed it, so she gave it to you. Right? You want to know how many times that's happened to us? A lot. So we just want to make sure that they know that, hey, I've got proof of funds showing you got 100 grand in this account. And you're going to be writing a check in 2 weeks to buy this property with that money. Are we all on the same page? Yep. Next, I want to get screening processes as far as getting something from their title companies, recommendations of who they've done business with before. Right? I want to make sure they're able to close. So when you're screening your buyers, we also like to find out what they're looking for. This is equally important. It's the age-old, what came first, the chicken or the egg? What do you find first? Do you find your buyers first or do you find the deal first? And if you ask 100 investors, you're going to hear both sides, right? My theory was if you go out there and you just find a smacking good deal, you should be able to find a buyer for it. But it's got to be a kick butt deal, not some bogus deal. You should be able to find a buyer for it. Other people say find your buyers first. I don't say there's a wrong way or there's a right way. Do whatever works better for you. But when you're working with your buyers, you need to find out what they're looking for. If you find buyers who are looking for terms deals, I'm screening them. So I don't have to close them is what I'm getting to you on with buyers. I get the information for what they're looking for and I provide that value to them in a hand-delivered silver platter with white gloves on, saying, I know you're looking for this kind of return on a rental without having to use your credit in this area. I've got one for you. This is the return. Everything fits for what you're looking for. So what do I look for? Your total cost of entry into a deal. What kind of bedrooms, bathrooms area you're looking for? What's your cash on cash return? I hear a lot of investors say, if I can make $300 a month and I'm in top, all in at 25 grand or less, and it's in this area, I'll take it. So when I find that deal, I call up my friend and say, hey, I got that deal you're looking for. You ready to go? If it's a cash buyer, I'm screening them by finding out what properties they like, what kind of return they're looking for. Are they looking for a cash return or is there a percentage they want to make on the deal? Some people might say I need to make 50 grand. Some people might say I need to make 20, 25%. It's all different. So I want to find out what their hot buttons are. And then I'm going to back into that too. So keeping a uniform, a very, very good buyers list, you're really screening your buyers, but the way we're screening these buyers for closing them is just giving them what they want. And it's really, really that simple. If I have a buyers list of folks looking for a rent-to-own house, it's a 3-bedroom house in Tampa, Florida, and I have my big buyers list, and I have that 3-bedroom house, I'm going to show it to my buyers list, guys. I've already screened them. This is what they're looking for. I'm going to share with them, and hopefully we get that thing sold quickly. So screening buyers and screening sellers are both completely different, but the same thing. You're trying to provide value. You're going to be listening more than you talk, but you're going to ask great questions and get that information that you've gathered, put it down, analyze it, and figure out how you're going to make this work for either a seller or a buyer. And if you could help a seller solve their problem, you're able to help buyers solve their problems, and you're getting paid to do all of this, you're providing a heck of a service. You're making a heck of a paycheck. And hopefully, once again, like I started, you're having some fun doing the process because, guys, it's a lot of stress. You're dealing with a lot of money. So you might as well laugh along the way a little bit, because if you don't, your head might explode. Oh, it gets nuts sometimes. But that's the name of the game. We've had some fun closings. We've had some crazy ones, which I'm sure we'll share some stories another time. It's all about closing today. So questions, if you all have any, it is some Q&A time. If you got random questions about stuff too, please drop them in the comments, and we will open it up now.
Yes, thank you, Kat. She's saying she wants to buy us a coffee, and I said, if everybody could take a minute and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and as always, share this content if you find it valuable. Help other people be on the right path to their success and be educated properly. That's really like our biggest passion, is to make sure people are doing things right. So I just want to throw that out there.
Well, the thing is, like, we still spend the money ourselves. I mean, we were at a 4-day seminar last week that starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, that didn't get done till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, some nights. And not only that it was the time, it was you spend the money, and it was the same thing. What's the YouTube channel? You want to drop it down below?
Creative Finance Playbook.
Right there. I wear these every Tuesday just for you guys.
Yeah,
Every
you can
Tuesday.
see my.
So yeah, and this is where we do. And I'll be honest with you, I've heard a lot of the stuff before, but I also pick up some extra things every single time. So I'm constantly a student. I would hopefully one day be a master, but I don't. I feel like once you get there, you stop, right? And I don't ever want to get there. So I'll continue to always learn and share everything that we're doing with you guys. And I think that's what's important.
All right, I'm gonna go back up to the beginning. If I don't get to your question or I skip to it, just drop it down below. So Jamie was asking, how do you introduce yourself when you reach out to Zillow sellers?
If it's a FISBO, a lot of times I just reach out and say, hey, my name is Joe, my wife is Jen, and we're looking at buying a house in this area. Is this house still available or is it sold already? Because sometimes they don't update the Zillow listing. And if they say it's still available, perfect. Can you tell me a little bit about the property? You got to remember, guys, one thing that I always try to reinforce with any student we have or any of our own team, when we are working with sellers, we are the buyers. Okay. We are going to be very nice. We're going to be respectful, but we don't owe these people anything. Guys, they're reaching out to you. You would be shocked how many people post their house online on Zillow for sale. And then when they receive a call, they're just damn right irritated that you called them to find out about their house. And it baffles me that if you're trying to sell me something, don't you think you should put on your best selling cap and do your best job trying to sell, whether you're in sales or not, right? I can imagine walking into a dealership and being a buyer and talking to a car salesperson, and they are just damn right rude and angry. Like, why are you here at my dealership looking at cars right now? Like, I can't imagine that being, they wouldn't last very long. So obviously a lot of these people you're dealing with, they might have just stubbed their toe before they answered your phone call. And maybe they're just in a really bad mood for temporarily. So that's okay, because a lot of times I'll call them back in another couple of weeks. And guess what? If they've got that shit attitude, they probably scared off a lot of other buyers too, right? So I will follow up with them, because a lot of times when it's that house sits there longer and they don't sell and the market is spoken, as I like to call it, the market's spoken. It says your house is not worth that. Maybe they're going to become a lot more flexible. So time and circumstances will also beat them up for you.
Isn't that true? Yeah. So going back to kind of our process, Ed had been asking, do you get that question on the first call? And so I think just to kind of, the next one too is asking about our script. So, you know, the whole purpose of this call is talking about closing the deal. So can you just like share that once again, like when you're first contacting a seller, are you even thinking about closing at that point?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm always thinking about closing. So yeah.
Right. ABC.
Certified closer. So absolutely. I'm always thinking of what's the angle I'm going to take here? Where is this conversation going? But the question I think they're getting to is, do I ask the mortgage balance on the very first call? And the answer is yes, I do. Yes, we do. Whether it's the very first call or it's the very first message reaching out, whatever that looks like, every single time. And I'm even going to ask them if we were to agree on price and, you know, to the house, would they be open to terms? Like I ask them that every single time on our opening script. We ask them what their cash is, and then we kind of sit there and formulate what's the strategy that's best for this. So, and because of the way we learned from a lot of different mentors, when we would get to the question of how much is owed on the mortgage, I would say we would get about a 50% yes, 50% why do you need to know this, and being super grumpy. And this is what led us to change the way our script was. I've been in sales my whole life and been to so many different sales trainings. We've formulated to the way that I've learned to make the easiest questions get a little harder over time. And once they've gotten that pattern of going back and forth, answering the question, and they're easy, they'll start being that same pattern. It's very hard to break. I would say we probably get 95% success rate once we ask that mortgage question. That if they do say, why do you need that? We have a rebuttal that we use. And between the rebuttal and that opening question, usually we get it 95% of the time. So yes, we do ask all of that. And I'll be honest with you too. Flip side, I guess to finish off on there, because I always be closing. When I talk to them on the initial call, if all sounds well, and I've done a little bit of research on the property and this goes well, to get your seller back on the phone a second time is a challenge, guys. I will be honest with you. So if the iron is hot and everything looks good, I am not afraid to pull that trigger and say, let's go ahead and do the deal right now. I have them on the phone, firm everything up, send me over this. Congratulations. I really talk on Dale Carnegie's training, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is about being part of the Smile and Compliment Club. Now they can't see my smile, but I'll tell you what, I am so cheerful over the phone. You could hear my smile. I promise you. And I'm complimenting it. This is a great thing for you guys, a great thing for us too. I'm really excited. Congratulations. This is going to be awesome. I can't wait. I know my wife loves that house and we love the area. We're so excited. Wow. Holy cow. Right. And it's a celebration. Take out the champagne. We're popping corks, baby. That's what we do. So
if the seller asks, what do you mean by terms? How do you respond to that?
So terms means that once we agree on a price, that we would work out seller financing, which means that we close it like a traditional sale. The only difference is that the current mortgage stays in place. And right now it's just take advantage of these lower interest rates that were done in the past versus me going to the bank and refinancing that same amount at a much higher interest rate because the numbers just don't pencil out at a high interest rate. I keep it so fifth grade level. I don't overly complicate it because everybody says I want to buy your house sub 2, but what's the real reason behind it? Yeah, no banks, no credit. I get that. But if any of you paid attention to what rates are now compared to what they are in the last 4 or 5 years, they're way more money now, these rates. So part of the best thing about it is, guys, if I'm able to buy your property, the way I could pay so darn much for it than anybody else would is if I'm able to buy it with terms, which means we buy it like a traditional sale where it's closed. The only difference here is the existing mortgage stays in place. So we could take advantage of that lower payment and a lower interest rate. Because at today's interest rates, with those rates being so high, the numbers just don't make sense. It doesn't pencil well. So if you're flexible and you're open to terms, this could be a great thing for you and a good thing for us too. Right. And if they have equity, a lot of equity, I say, if you're a little flexible on when you could get your equity, this could be a great thing for you too, because I'll pay top dollar. And then they say, well, how long? Then we have our close that we ask them the questions to get the answer out of how long. Because I know most of you are thinking of saying, oh, I'll get it done in 2 years, or you want to give them a number. Hell no. You ask the questions and have them give you the number. And then you say, are you sure? Is that the best you can do? Just like typical sales training. And you will be shocked how many people say, I'll do 10 years. And I will also tell you too, guys, on a lot of these deals that we do have, if they have no equity, I just let them know that we're going to take over their payments until it gets cashed out later on. And I don't know when, but until then, we take care of everything. I don't even give them an option. I just tell them what we're doing. On the ones where they have a lot of equity and they might know, hey, when am I going to get this 60,000? I've got one deal we did in New York. We bought it for 290. He owes 230. He's got $60,000 of a spread in there he's going to get. We wrote up as a 30-year term. I said, I don't know when I'm going to cash it out. So I'm going to just write up for 30 years from now. And when I get it cashed out, we get it cashed out. And he said, that's fine. So don't assume anything. The biggest challenge that salespeople have is that you put your head and thoughts into thinking, what the seller is going to think and say. And I promise you, you have no clue. Nobody knows. The realtor doesn't know. You don't know. So you just need to ask the questions and let the sellers give you the offer. Because there's many a times where I've had conversations with people. I'm like, oh my God. And I do it too. Like they're never going to go for this, but I know better. So I trick myself into pretending like I didn't just think that and say that. And I still go through the motions because I do what I'm supposed to do. But I'm thinking, oh hell, they're never going to go through this. And they do. I'm like, holy cow, you did it again. That's why I can't surprise and be shocked because it's happened just too many times. So that's one of the biggest downfalls is we prejudge and predict we know what's going to happen when we have no clue.
It's that mindset shift. Really.
Yeah, it's a challenge for everybody in sales, I will tell you. But
All
you
right,
just have
so
to have the tenacity to just do it.
do it and think good thoughts. All right, so we had one question here about our script. So I just wanted to throw out there, what is it that our VAs are asking? And we do have like a very abbreviated free version on our website, creativefinanceplaybook.com, the straight line approach that Joe gave us. You're always welcome to grab that. It's definitely a great place to start. But if you're looking for something more in depth, we have our 3-month coaching going on right now, where an entire module that will be available. You'll have 2 weeks to work through it. Like that's where every single script for every part of the business will be. So if you want more information on that, just shoot me a message. I'll be happy to explain. But I wanted to put that out there because I know sometimes we get stuck on how do we talk or what do we say. So there's a free version on there, but there's also more. So if you're interested, just message me.
Well, and also cool thing about there too, guys, we're having our agreements go up there for the first time. We're going to be sharing our sandwich lease purchase agreement, guys. So what is a sandwich lease purchase? That means that we're buying real estate, but I'm not buying it, right? I'm leasing it from a homeowner. With our agreement says that we have the ability to release it and to resell it to somebody else at a higher amount, right? And we have 2 different agreements, one that we work with sellers, one we work with buyers, because we buy differently than we sell, okay? So in our agreements means that we could obviously sell it to somebody else. So one of my favorite ways to control real estate is just by a couple pieces of paper without having to pay thousands in closing costs, without having to worry about getting the insurance policy. I mean, absolutely getting into these deals with 0 money. And all we do is we find somebody who wants to sell their house on a lease purchase. We let them know that we do not make our first payment until 30 days after we installed our tenant buyer. We get a non-refundable option deposit. So we find somebody who gives us $20,000 down. That's Joe and Jen's $20,000. We didn't have any closing costs. We had nothing into that deal. We didn't even have to buy the house. We just control it by these papers that we have. So when everybody says, where's the best way to get started in real estate? A lot of times they say wholesaling, which is a great way. That's how I got started. But if I knew how to do a sandwich lease purchase, I would get that non-refundable option deposit. I would get the monthly rent difference every single month. And then once the buyer down the road decides to get cash out, then I could get a spread there too. So this is where there's a lot of value in learning how to do that side of it. Not only this, flip side of it, if any of you have an IRA, I'm gonna take it next level real quick. This is value right here, guys. If any of you have an IRA, now I'm not telling you to use the one that I use, but I do, and Jen uses Quest Trust Company out of Houston, Texas, and they're phenomenal. You can roll your IRA into what's called a self-directed IRA. Self-directed IRA means that you can do multiple things in that besides just investing what the house says that you can invest in. So with the self-directed IRA, if you give the land or the owner of that house on a sandwich lease purchase, so you give them $100 deposit and you took that out of your IRA, when you get that $20,000 non-refundable option deposit, that goes back into your IRA tax-free. The monthly rent that you get every month, the spread, the profit, also goes back into your IRA tax-free. And then once your buyer buys you out, all that money that's left over goes into your IRA tax-free again. So you could also be able to do sandwich lease purchases, guys, outside of your IRAs, but inside of your IRAs, and make a whole bunch of money tax-free and become IRA millionaires. Because if you're looking at paying taxes versus not, you're going to become there a lot faster by not paying taxes. It's perfectly legal. It's one of the very few amazing loopholes that are still available to investors. And a lot of people don't know that they're available. So Quest Trust Company will help you get set up the right way so you don't make any bad decisions and guide you the right ways. But guys, this is out there and it's available. And these are how millionaires become extremely wealthy. It's learning all these small little loopholes. A lot of times they don't share on YouTube. That's what you have to pay the courses for. So we do all that kind of stuff for you guys, and we help walk you through the process so you don't have to try to figure it out all on your own. Sorry, I got off on a tangent.
Well, now you're getting, does the sandwich lease go into your name or your IRA's name?
It's going to go into your LLC's name that your IRA owns.
That's where it gets intricate.
Don't put nothing in your name.
No, be very careful. You need to really hire the right people to help you do all that.
Yep.
Okay.
Great question.
All right, you had a question up here. Do you negotiate with them if it's not turnkey, even if the numbers work? Also, when you do a buyout, how many years out and what interest do you underwrite the deal with?
So I always negotiate every single time, even the house is turnkey or not, everything's always going to be negotiated. It's always the best you can do. I've got one seller now who wanted, like I said earlier, like $40,000 down. My final negotiation after I see these pictures is, hey, we'll do the deal, but we're looking at $5,000 down. So yeah, I will negotiate prices, even if the deal seems good. I will warn you, and this is the lesson we went over today in our office, is if you have ever gone fishing, some have, some haven't. But the trick is if you've ever caught a really, really, really big fish and you're reeling them into your boat or on the dock, whatever it is, you're going to learn a lesson of don't reel too hard because you could snap the line and that big old fish could get away. So what does that mean, Joe? So if I'm talking to a seller who wants $400,000 for his house and it's worth 440,000, I got a little bit of margin, right? 40 grand. He's selling to me for 400. I figure out it's worth 440. And I got a 0% mortgage for a really long term with no money down. Guys, I'm not going to fight them too much harder on the price because the rest of that deal is a monster deal, right? 0%, no money down, low payment. I'm paying good money for the house, right? I got a discount, not the biggest discount in the world. Maybe even if he wanted $400,000 for a $400,000 home. But he says, Joe, give it to me at $500 a month, 0% mortgage for the next 30 years. I want to count on that $500 coming in every month. I don't even know if I want to fight him on the price. I'm still going to ask because that's just my nature. But I'm not going to ask really hard. Like, hey, John, I know you said you need 400. Are you sure that's the best you could do? Yeah, I want 400. Okay, good. I plan on giving it to you, right? Like, thank you. It depends on what the rest of the deal looks like. So don't pull too hard on that big old fish and snap your line and let her get away. Oh, I'm giving you that advice.
Okay, I don't know if Kenneth is still here. Joe, how much would you be able to get for rent on that first property to make a profit? I think you were talking about Colorado. Not 100%.
We're still analyzing the numbers right now. We're trying to decipher if that's best for Airbnb. We're trying to figure out if it's best for a short term, or I'm sorry, like a regular rental, which I don't know if it is, or sometimes that might be best for a homeowner. Right? Because if there's no spread in there for that monthly cash flow, somebody who's looking to buy a beautiful turnkey house with a low interest rate that they could literally move into that's 7 months old without having to use credit and all these things, that's a heck of a deal. A homeowner doesn't care about cash flow. They care about, can I afford the monthly payment and do we love the house? And that's what they're focused on. So when we look at what the monthly PITIs, including the HOA, right, the payment with the principal, interest, tax, insurance, that's what PITI stands for, plus the HOA, we got to look at that number. Is there room for monthly rent? If there isn't, what's Airbnb look like here? Because maybe it's a grand slam there, right? So we look at that. We don't do those. So if we do, we'll find somebody who wants to, and we'll sign it to them. I don't do Airbnb. And then if it's not great for a rental, but it could be decent for Airbnb, I'll look for somebody who wants it for an Airbnb, or I'm going to look for somebody who wants to live there. Because once again, if you live there, you don't care about cash flow. You just want a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood. And we can do that. That's what happened with one of our properties. It was great for an investor, and a couple of them now actually. And the people who bought it were people who are moving into it for themselves. It's happened on a few occasions now. Great question.
All right. Yeah, that was good. All right, Jay has been so patient, so thank you, Jay. He's getting a lot of leads in South Carolina that are mobile homes. Are you finding that in other areas? And any cautions regarding buying a mobile home in the country a little bit? I know most physical cautions of buying a mobile home, but I'm wondering about getting a rent-to-own tenant buyer in the countryside.
We have one ourselves in New York. Make sure, I would say, if anything, you own the land. Obviously, I don't like getting in the trailer parks unless I'm buying the whole park, or if I'm going to buy a mobile home in a park, it's only because I'm getting it at a huge discount that I'm going to either do little work or no work to it, and I'm going to turn around and sell it right away, right? But I'm not going to do anything like renters in a mobile home park. But what you're saying, Jay, in Florida is littered with these things. So yes, we see them a lot down here. We deal with them often. I've got one right now I'm working on, honestly, in the state of Washington. The woman owns 5.5 acres, but the mobile home itself was destroyed. These people were squatting in there, really ruined the place. They moved out. So where I look at what's the value of the land? Am I finding any parcels there? Does it have septic? Does it have electric to it? Because it has septic at it and has electric to it. It's probably worth more, obviously, than the raw land, especially depending on the condition of the septic. If the septic's in good shape and the electric's in good shape, I try to find comparable land, and that's where I'm going to base it off of. Its value is this, because these mobile homes could get yanked right out of there, and somebody go put a new one in there. And depending on the age and condition, some of them are so bad that that's the only option, is to maybe put a new one in, because some of these are really bad. However, older than, I think it's somewhere in the 70s, you can't finance them. So the only way to really sell those are with cash or with terms. So it's a very common way of buying and selling it. 76, there you go. Thank you, Lewis. I thought it was somewhere around there. So anything older than a 76, you can't finance them. So these are perfect examples of where you could buy it. So to back up on your story, if I find one's in decent shape, especially on a free and clear one, and I could get a 0% mortgage to where now I could pay it down quickly, even if I do pay a little bit more or a little bit higher, because guys, a 0% mortgage could get you out of a medium deal and put you into a really, really nice deal quickly. So therefore, on some properties that we bought, I paid a good dollar for them, but that 0% mortgage really cuts it down. So everybody always worries about, what's the tax thing? So you have to put a certain percentage of interest rate on there. If not, they'll get tax on it, but that's only if it's over 250,000. So when you're dealing with mobile homes under 250, I will write 0% mortgages on those things all day long. Make the deal, put in a tenant buyer. Some if they need work, I could do a rent to own, handyman special, do the work yourself, save thousands. While they are paying rent every month, I'm paying a low mortgage payment at 0%. So I'm paying down my principal quickly, build that equity fast, and you can still make money on those things very well.
All right, I was checking here. Alex, sorry, Alex asked, are your SMM also chatting with sellers? If it means social media managers?
Our VAs do.
Yeah.
So when somebody reaches out to us, they're going to do it through messaging, and our VAs get them through the script. Our VAs do not talk to sellers on the phone. The only person that will talk to somebody on the phone would be somebody here at our team. And the only way we're going to get a phone call with some of these folks is once they've answered all the questions on the script, and we've got the facts that we need to have an educated conversation with them. The worst ones in the world, I've got one today. I'm going to be nice, but I'm going to say he's a little bit of a stroke, because he's been reaching out to us since August 14th, guys. And this guy still won't give us the address to his property. And so I had to be like, hey, not for nothing. I'm ready to cut the umbilical cord on you, bud, and cut you loose. I said, we've been chatting since August. I would love to chat with you about buying your property, but if we're going to go any further, I'm going to need to know the address to the property you're trying to sell. If not, hey, I get it, but maybe you should listen with a realtor then, but you're going to have to tell them the address too. So some people are just that. Yeah, I did call him that, hun. I see the little smirk on your face.
Anyway, we are asked, do we still personally make cold calls, or do you only follow up with warm leads? Jen and Joe.
Okay, me personally, yes, I do. I love doing it. I'm a freak. I like talking on the phone. Phone does not scare me. Phone's opportunity to pick it up and make tens of thousands of dollars. So who I cold call, I will be very strategic. Lately, I've been cold calling realtors off of PropStream. I've been doing a search right now. It's like lightning in a bottle, and it's been working. And with our realtor script, it literally walks the realtor down, because what I've noticed in all these Facebook groups all these people are discouraged. I talked to a realtor and they were telling me to get lost and all this other stuff. Well, because you're not asking the right questions. And I've listened to some of people talk before too. And be quite honest with you, I'd hang up on some of you too. Because if you're asking some of these wild questions, can I buy this $400,000 property for 80 grand cash? Like, no wonder why you're getting hung up on. Right. So if you're going to have a conversation, at least kind of know some of it, right? So what we're developed is the realtor script, which literally walks you right through how to have the realtor be on your side, explaining to them what you're trying to do, how you're going to help them in the process of what that looks like. Because I will tell you, when I walk people down our realtor script, guys, that works so amazingly well. Now you just got to run the numbers and see if it makes sense. And if the deal makes sense, you will now have that realtor be on your side. It's not every time, but if you know what to look for, and then you know how to have that conversation, boy, it's a way better conversation than just cold calling a realtor for no reason. And so, yeah, I do that constantly. If I find a for sale by owner sign on the side of the road, when I drive back from lunch, I take a different route every single time, and I look for driving for dollars. I'm not out driving for dollars, but I drive by. If I see a crap house, I stop and get that address, prop stream it, and try to reach out to the owner. Not too far down the street from us, there was a house that caught on fire maybe a month or two ago. Like, I got their phone number. I'm like, hey, do you guys want to sell your house? I drive by it every day, and I saw, unfortunately, there was a fire there. Right. So, yeah, I still cold call the shit out of people, and I enjoy it because that's how we make deals. And some of the deals that we're finding are just not on the market anywhere. So I think the biggest thing is get off of it's either a fear. Most of the time it's a fear, or it's an ego thing that you don't talk on the phone. Most of the time it's a fear. And my whole concept is, guys, they're never going to beat you up. Nobody's going to punch you through the phone. It's not possible yet. Technology, 20 more years, maybe they can punch you through the phone, but for right now, they can't. So what happens is, if I pick up somebody and they're rude and they're nasty, guess what works really well? The disconnect button. Get off the phone with them, right? And if you have to cut off at mid-sentence and just be like, click and just hit decline and block number because they were the most horrible person on the earth and you never want to talk to them again. Technology now, guys, you can do that. But that's this worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is going to happen there. So if you get over that fear that nobody's going to beat you up, the next point of it is you might talk to somebody who's in a jam and you're able to help them out. And even better yet, make a whole bunch of money too. And this is what I explained to my team today: is you never know who's on the other side of the call. There's opportunities out there, and I look for opportunity. So I love talking, because the more times I get on the phone, the closer I'm getting to my golden nugget. And you're not going to do it in the dugout.
Well, I think too, somebody's saying, Lewis is saying, I talked to a realtor this morning and never heard of mortgage taking over a mortgage sub 2. And Kat's really surprised about that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think most realtors know or no?
So some do, some don't. You got to remember, they're human, right? So some people just barely pass the test, and others probably did flying colors. I know it's a lot of our realtors' courses. I know it's a lot of their, right now, if you're renewing your license, I've seen it a handful of times. They're like, here's subject to. Not only that, guys, on line 203 and 503, write those two down. 203 and 503 of a HUD statement, it explains it right there. It wasn't like you just pulled some voodoo magic out of your hat, guys. It says it right on the HUD statement. So, but I'll tell you, in any profession, there's always usually like, here, we don't do this, but they never look at page 2, which is the list of exceptions, right? And so you need to know the exceptions to it. So I don't ever say subject to, because they might not understand what that term means. All I say is that I'm able to buy the property, have it traditionally closed like a normal real estate deal, and I'm able to keep the existing mortgage in place because I'm able to take advantage of low interest rate. And if I'm talking to a realtor, I'll say, and you'd probably agree that if interest rates were still 3%, this listing of yours would have probably got sold immediately. But with rates right now, it's not penciling out for a lot of people. But this one strategy is a way that I can make that make sense for me buying it at this price, figure out a commission for you, and still take advantage of that low interest rate by doing this. And if they say, I've never heard of that before, well, yeah, all the attorneys do it all, and they're the ones that know about it. But if you look at a HUD statement, line 203 and 503, it walks you right through the process. And then once they pull that up and they see what it says, they're going to say, oh, you're going to teach them something they didn't know. So when I'm teaching somebody something, I'm friendly. I'm not like, yeah, you don't know how to do your job. Look at line 2 or 3, right? Like, I walk them right through it. Like, hey, this is a normal way of doing it. And a lot of folks haven't heard of it, but the attorneys are the experts. They're the ones that cross all the T's and dots all the I's, and they know how to do it. But if you look at line 203 and 503 in the HUD statement, it just kind of walks you right through the process right on there. So this isn't coming from you. Now you're using attorneys who know how to do this, and it's on the HUD statement, guys. So those two things, you're going to make the realtor think like, hey, Schmucky, you should know how to do your job without you saying that to them, right? Because once again, they're all humans, and I'm sure there's every part of somebody's job that we don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. So
it's going to be planting those seeds. Like I was just telling Joe earlier, I saw a realtor on Instagram. She has like, I don't know, 10 listings that are just sitting, and she made a reel about it. So I commented and said, hey, if these sellers would be open to terms, we're buying. And she direct messaged me and was like, what does that mean? What are terms? So I briefly, explained seller financing, the type of person I'm looking for has little to no equity. Made sure to tell her that I'll make sure she gets paid, but just kind of planting those seeds right now. Is probably nothing will come out of it like at this second, but having that conversation and opening those doors is really key right now, I think.
And it really is. Nice.
And Kat wanted to know if you recorded any of these phone calls with the realtors.
Oh, I'm sure they're in CRM. No, actually, no. I think a lot of them are on my cell phone because I would just randomly call them. Some are probably in the CRM, but most of them, their CRM has all the incoming stuff. So I actually can start calling them through the CRM now. I know how to do that.
All right,
so I will start doing that, Kat. So because I'm going to have a crap ton of them, and you get to listen how great these conversations are, because I will tell you, some of them are still like, nah, that won't work. I'm like, cool, I'll call you another 30 days because this house is going to be here. I'm super nice about it. I'm chuckling in my head. I'm not laughing at them. I'm not even laughing with them. I'm thinking this in my head, but I'm like, yeah, no reason, no big deal. I'll, if I see it on the market and it's around in another few weeks, I'll reach back out and, we'll see if there's anything else we could do. And anything else that we could do means, I'm going to call you back and say, hey, I know we chatted a month ago. Would you still consider doing this? And let them talk. But I will tell you, if the house was listed for 5 days versus 120 days, and maybe their 6-month listing is about to expire, you think they're going to want to be a little bit more open to it for sure. And you also have the realtors, oh no, this would never do it. Okay, click. Guess what? I'm on to the next one so fast. I've already forgot that person's name. So you have to have short-term memory loss as well. And so when you have those people who say, no, this won't work, put them in a file system. I have them. I'm doing it on purpose. The date I called, the date I'm going to follow up, the phone number of the realtor, and I'm going to call them back with the address and be like, hey, I know we chatted a month ago. Is that house? And I'll even text them. I know we chatted last month about the house on 225 Cranston Avenue. Is it still available, or did you sell it yet? I word it just like that. So I'll share that out with you guys too. But if they say, no, it's already sold, move on to the next one. But a lot of times they're saying right now, no, it's still available. Okay. And you'll see their attitudes change. I promise. Not all of them, but most of them. There's some that are just so wild and bougie, they will never change. Any other questions?
Where they're asking, where do they find this realtor script? Do you have any of these agent calls inside the closing call compilation? I don't think there's any.
We don't have any in the closing call compilation. No, those are just seller calls dealing direct with seller in there. I'm going to do a realtor one very soon because I've got a lot of these now. I know I have some recorded. I know I need to put some more together, which I will be doing. And we'll probably drop that with the realtor script, because I will tell you right now, it is never been easier to find deals and leads online. And we've done deals through Zillow and all the different ways, but right now it's never been easier. The only challenge I'm going to put forth on you all right now, just so we know, when you're talking with the realtor, they always want to know how they're going to get paid, and the successes and the details. That's what I'll share with you. But the one thing I'm going to make you all aware is when you're working with a realtor, you have to also pay them closing costs, but there's also going to be a commission. So we're going to work about how to negotiate that commission When to negotiate the commission is even more important than how to negotiate it, is when to. And it is a process that I have tried countless of times, and I've got it down to a science, because you can't put the cart before the horse. If you ever heard that story, and if you try to, disaster will happen. So you need to know the etiquette of how to do it the proper way. And once you do, holy cow, it's lightning in the bottle, gang. And so we'll get that done right away.
Perfect. Yeah, we got lots of fun stuff working. But yeah, the scripts will all be available as part of our 3-month program, all bundled together. And then we'll work on getting some smaller little packages out there too. I know there's a price point for everybody, and that's why we come here weekly, every week, to share as much as we possibly can, even if our kiddos are swinging chairs in the background.
Oh, not only that too, I know I got like a handful of closing calls that Lexi's like, you have a closing call, you get another one. So, you know, I have a few that I'll be working on, right?
All right, well, we got to
Yeah, I was
get
talking
with
about you. She's giving me the smile. She's like, yeah. She's got a list of closing calls for me. So maybe I'll start recording them now. You know, we can hear that too. But yeah, we got lots of fun stuff going on, guys. There's opportunity coming down the pipeline galore. Everybody I keep watching on TV keeps on saying they're not sharing with you. We're obviously in a recession. It's going to head more that way. I listen to Elon Musk. I listen to tons of guys who and super powerful people, smart people who keep on saying, and nobody really knows, but everybody's forecasting this is going to go on all of this year and partial of next year before it starts to do a bounce back, which now once it hits the ground, it still takes time being low to come back. So this could legitimately be 2 to 3 years of opportunities with real estate. And everybody I talk to who doesn't know how we invest in real estate say, wow, you guys are in a lot of trouble right now. House prices are dropping. And I'm like, yeah, but if you know what we did, it's gotten better now than ever to make these deals. So guys, there are people who need to sell. There's people out there who really, truly need your help. So you becoming an expert in how to do these creative finance deals, that's what we come here is to share with you guys. Some current deals that we're working on, not stuff that happened 10 years ago, like some of these folks try to do, or one deal wonders. We're multiple deals. We're sharing what's currently working. And as the market shifts, how can you shift with it and still make your success happen, opposed to being on the sidelines? And this is why we come share with you guys. And then, like Jen says, if you need more in depth, a little bit more boot camp style, where you need to get it all real good, and you want that transformation to happen, and you don't want to wait on the sidelines because you understand these opportunities are coming. That's why we have the Creative Finance Playbook with our agreements, our scripts, our checklists, our processes, because the stuff they don't share with you on YouTube, the successes in the small details and the nitty gritty stuff that just can't all be spelled out unless it's really put down. So that's why we do what we do. And in the meantime, we're still here every Tuesday for free, to having some fun with you. So we appreciate you coming. Next week, I know we got some great stuff on its way too. And I think in 2 weeks, we might have a surprise for you guys, but we're not going to share that yet.
March.
I'm taking the February one, but we'll talk about that later, girl.
Okay, I don't know
You
what
talk
you're
about,
talking about.
oh yeah, you do.
Oh, I wish it was Ron. We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, we're gonna work on that too. So I
We'll
got a
get
couple
some- we'll
ideas coming down.
Get some good guests on the pipeline here.
You know
but
what?
Yeah,
Son of a gun. I should have asked him while we were just there too.
I don't see why you wouldn't.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna hit him up. All right, good idea. I love that. Get Ron on here. All right, cool guys. Great seeing y'all. I gotta get my butt to work.
right.
We'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Have a great day, everybody. Go make
See you
some
guys.
money. Do some deals.
creativefinanceplaybook.com.